My name is Rachel Miller. I'm 27 years old, and I work full-time as a nurse at a small hospital in Austin, Texas. For years, I'd been grinding through night shifts, skipping vacations, and saving every single dollar I could. I told myself it would all be worth it one day, when I could finally afford something that was just mine, a symbol of all the sacrifices I'd made. That day finally came. It wasn't anything flashy. No luxury brand, no sports car, just a silver Honda Accord, fresh from the dealership lot. But to me, it might as well have been a diamond. My first car. The one I had worked for, sacrificed sleep for, pushed myself for. I remember driving it home with the windows down, letting the warm Texas breeze hit my face. I pulled into the driveway and sat there for a moment, just staring at the dashboard lights, the new car smell, the faint vanilla-scented air freshener I had hung on the mirror. For the first time in years, I felt proud of myself, not just for what I had done at work, but for what I had done for me. I couldn't wait to show my family. "Mom! Dad! Come outside!" I called, still smiling as I stepped out of the car. My mom, always quick to humor me, walked out first. She smiled softly and said, "Wow, Rachel, it's beautiful." My dad followed behind her, arms crossed, expression harder to read. "How much did this cost you?" he asked, not in admiration but more like an interrogation. I brushed it off, still too happy to care. Then came Chloe. Chloe is my younger sister. She's 23, still in college and still living at home. She doesn't have a job, doesn't pay bills, and spends most of her free time with friends or posting online about her student life. What she doesn't know, what no one in my family knows, is that I've been the one paying her tuition. Every month, I've quietly covered her university bills, her phone plan, and even helped out with her off-campus apartment rent. My parents couldn't afford both of us, and I didn't want her to drop out. I thought I was helping her succeed. But the moment she stepped outside and looked at my car, I knew she didn't see any of that. She didn't smile. She didn't say congratulations. She just rolled her eyes and muttered, "So what? It's just a car." Her words stung, but I swallowed it. I told myself not to let her ruin my happiness. I ran my hand over the hood of the Accord and said quietly, more to myself than anyone, "It's mine." That night, I was brushing my hair when there was a knock at my bedroom door. Chloe stood there, holding a big pink purse, her eyes glittering with a fake sweetness I knew too well. "Hey, Rachel," she said, drawing out my name. "Can I borrow your car this weekend? My friends and I are driving up to Lake Travis. It'll only be a couple days." I froze. The car wasn't even 24 hours old, and she was already trying to take it. "I'm sorry, Chloe," I said carefully. "I just bought it. The insurance is new, and I'm not comfortable handing it over yet." Her smile vanished instantly, replaced with a scowl. "Wow, seriously? After everything I've done for you?" That confused me. Everything she'd done for me? What did she mean by that? I was the one paying for her education, her bills, her so-called independence. She had no idea that behind every class she attended, every apartment rent she skipped, was me. "I'm sorry," I repeated, softer this time. "Not this time." She turned on her heel and stormed down the hallway, slamming her bedroom door so hard the walls shook. I thought that would be the end of it, just another one of Chloe's tantrums. But the next morning, I opened the front door to leave for my shift, and my stomach dropped. The car I had worked years for, was ruined. Every window shattered, glass glittering across the driveway like ice shards. The side mirrors dangled, cracked and useless. The paint along both sides was slashed with deep, angry scratches. The windshield was cracked in a spiderweb pattern, so wide I could barely see the inside. And lying on the ground beside it was a long metal rod. I couldn't move at first. My chest tightened, and my hands shook so badly I thought I might drop my bag. This car wasn't just transportation. It was my pride, my proof that all the long nights meant something. And now it was reduced to rubble. Then I looked up. There, standing on the porch, was Chloe. She was sipping iced coffee from a plastic cup, her eyes fixed on me with a look that wasn't shame, wasn't fear. It was smugness. My throat went dry. "Chloe, did you?" She cut me off before I could finish. "Next time, don't act like you're better than everyone else." The words hit me harder than the sight of the broken car. She truly believed that. She believed my hard work, my tiny moment of joy was arrogance. I didn't scream, I didn't cry, I didn't even ask her why. Instead, I turned around, walked back into the house and shut the door behind me. Inside, my heart was racing, but my mind was sharper than it had ever been. Chloe had no idea. She had no idea that I was the one who had been carrying her all along, and she was about to find out what life looked like without me. The morning after Chloe's tantrum, I woke up earlier than usual. My shift at the hospital didn't start until 9, but I wanted to leave the house early just to enjoy a quiet drive in my new car before the chaos of the ER swallowed me whole. I brushed my hair, slipped on my scrubs, and grabbed my coffee mug. But the moment I opened the front door, my entire body froze. It felt like someone had punched the air out of my lungs. There, sitting in the driveway, was my car, or at least what was left of it. The windows were gone, not cracked, not chipped, but completely shattered, with jagged pieces glinting on the pavement like diamonds scattered under the morning sun. The side mirrors dangled uselessly, broken at the hinges. Deep scratches ran across the doors like claw marks, long and deliberate, as if someone had dragged a key or a blade across the metal again and again. And the windshield. That brand new windshield I had polished just the night before. It was spiderwebbed from one side to the other, a massive crack slicing right through the middle. My heart sank to my stomach. For a few seconds, I couldn't move. I just stood there with my coffee cup trembling in my hand, staring at the destruction. Then I saw it. A long, bent metal rod lying on the driveway, its end covered with faint shards of glass, and standing on the porch, holding a plastic cup of iced coffee like it was any other morning, was Chloe. She leaned casually against the railing, her hair tied back in a messy bun, her phone in her other hand. She didn't look surprised. She didn't even look nervous. She just took a slow sip from her straw and stared at me, her eyes daring me to say something. My lips parted, but no words came out at first. My throat was dry, my pulse racing. Finally, I managed a whisper. "Chloe, did you do this?" She shrugged, not even bothering to hide the smirk tugging at her lips. "Next time, don't act like you're better than everyone else." I blinked, stunned. Better than everyone else? Was that really what she thought? That working long hours, saving every penny, and buying something for myself made me arrogant? The rage I expected never came. No screaming, no shouting. Instead, I felt something colder, sharper. It was the kind of clarity that only comes when the last thread finally snaps. I looked at her one last time, then turned back into the house. Inside, I set my coffee down on the counter with shaking hands. My chest felt heavy, like a stone was pressing down on it, but underneath that weight was something else. A decision forming, quiet, but unshakable. I walked to my room, sat down on the edge of the bed, and pulled out my phone. My banking app blinked open with a familiar login screen. Within seconds, I was staring at a list of transactions I had memorized by heart. Monthly tuition payments to the University of Texas in Chloe's name. Rent transfers to her landlord for the off-campus apartment she bragged about online. Even her cell phone plan, automatically charged to my card. I had been funding her life in silence. Every paycheck I earned, every hour I worked, I gave without complaint. She had no idea. Our parents thought the school had given her a scholarship. Chloe assumed our uncle was helping out. But it had been me, always me. I stared at the screen for a long moment. Then, with one swipe, I canceled the recurring tuition payment. Another swipe, the rent transfer. Then the phone bill. Each confirmation felt like a weight lifting off my shoulders. Chloe had smashed the one thing I had earned for myself. So I was done funding the things she thought she deserved without lifting a finger. For the first time in years, I wasn't her silent sponsor anymore. I set the phone aside, pulled out my small black suitcase from under the bed, and began packing. I didn't take much. Just clothes, important documents, and the photo of me and Jenna from our nursing school graduation. When the suitcase was zipped shut, I grabbed a sticky note from my desk and scribbled a single line. You destroyed what I loved. I just stopped funding what you love. Let's call it even. I stuck it to the fridge on my way out. Outside, I didn't even glance at the car. The shattered glass glimmered in the sunlight, but I refused to let Chloe see me cry. I dragged my suitcase to the curb and called a cab. As I waited, Chloe leaned against the porch railing again, sipping her coffee like nothing had happened. She didn't ask where I was going. She didn't care. The cab arrived, and I loaded my suitcase into the trunk. The driver glanced at the wrecked car, then at me, his brows furrowed, but he didn't say a word. I slid into the back seat, shut the door, and watched my parents' house fade into the distance. For years I had carried Chloe without recognition, without thanks. But as the cab wound its way toward Jenna's apartment across town, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Relief. I wasn't angry. Not anymore. I was free. The cab dropped me off in front of Jenna's apartment complex on the east side of Austin. She lived on the third floor of a brick building covered in ivy, a quiet place that smelled faintly of laundry detergent and fresh-cut grass. I dragged my suitcase up the steps, and before I could knock, the door swung open. Rachel? Jenna's eyes widened. She looked down at my suitcase, then back at me. What happened? I didn't trust my voice to answer. Instead, I pulled out my phone and showed her the photo I had taken of my car before leaving. The broken windows, the scratches, the bent metal rod still lying on the ground. Her jaw dropped. Oh my God, Chloe did that? I nodded. For a long moment, Jenna just stared at the screen, her lips pressed into a thin line. Then she stepped aside and said softly, "Come in." Her apartment smelled like fresh coffee and cinnamon rolls. The living room was cluttered in the cozy way Jenna always kept it. Pillows piled on the couch, a half-finished puzzle spread across the coffee table, nursing textbooks stacked in a corner. I sank onto the couch, and Jenna sat beside me. "Tell me everything," she said gently. So I did. I told her about Chloe asking to borrow the car, about me saying no, and about waking up to find the windows shattered. I told her about the smirk, the iced coffee, the words Chloe had thrown at me like knives. Don't act like you're better than everyone else. By the time I finished, Jenna's hands were balled into fists. Rachel, you can't keep letting her do this to you. This isn't just a bad sibling fight. This is destruction. It's abuse. I swallowed hard. I know. And your parents? She asked cautiously. They'll take her side, I said flatly. They always do. To them, Chloe's the fragile one, the golden child. And me? I'm just responsible. The one they expect to fix everything. Jenna frowned. So what now? I opened my banking app again and showed her the list of canceled payments. I cut her off. Tuition, rent, phone, gone. They'll find out soon enough. For the first time since the morning, I felt the corners of my mouth lift. It wasn't a smile, not really, but it was close. Jenna leaned back, her eyes wide. Wait, you were paying her tuition? Yeah, I said quietly. For over a year. Mom and Dad thought she had a scholarship. Chloe thought maybe Uncle Ben was helping. But it was me. Always me. Jenna blinked. Rachel, why didn't you ever tell anyone? Because I thought I was doing the right thing, I whispered. I thought if I carried her, she'd eventually find her own footing. I thought if I sacrificed enough, maybe my parents would finally see me. But none of it mattered. She smashed my car without blinking. And Mom and Dad? They'll probably blame me for walking out. Silence settled between us. Outside the window, the sun was sinking low, painting the Austin skyline orange and pink. I stared at it, letting the colors blur. Finally, Jenna spoke. You know what this is, right? This is freedom. It hurts, but it's also your chance to finally live without carrying their weight. I nodded slowly. She was right. That night, I set up camp in Jenna's guest room. It wasn't big, just a futon and a small desk, but it felt safer than any place I'd been in years. I unpacked my clothes, lined my shoes neatly against the wall, and slid my documents into the desk drawer. For the first time, the suitcase wasn't a symbol of escape. It was a symbol of starting over. The next morning, my phone buzzed nonstop. First, it was Mom. Rachel, what did you do? Chloe can't register for classes. The university says her tuition wasn't paid. Fix this now. Then Dad. We didn't raise you to be cruel. She's your sister. Stop punishing her. By lunchtime, there were 10 messages, each one angrier than the last. I didn't reply. Instead, I called the university's financial office. The woman on the line confirmed Chloe's account was now delinquent. I calmly emailed them a full record of the payments I'd made for the past year, bank receipts, transfer confirmations, everything, just in case Chloe tried to spin a story. Then I called her landlord. This is Rachel Moore, I said. I just wanted you to know I won't be covering Chloe's rent anymore. She vandalized my car and I won't be financially responsible for her any longer. The landlord was quiet for a second. Then he let out a low whistle. Wow, I always thought her parents were paying. Nope, I said, my voice steady. It was me. Well, thank you for the heads up. She's got until the end of the month. When I hung up, I felt a strange mix of fear and liberation. Chloe's safety net was gone, and for once, I wasn't scrambling to replace it. That evening, Jenna and I sat on her balcony, sipping iced tea as cicadas hummed in the warm Texas air. Do you think they'll ever understand? Jenna asked. I shook my head. They don't want to understand. To them, family means sacrificing for Chloe. Always Chloe. I used to think that was my role. But now, I'm done. Jenna reached over and squeezed my hand. Good. Because you deserve so much better than being their wallet. For the first time in years, I believed her. And deep down, I knew Chloe hadn't hit rock bottom yet. This was only the beginning. The week after I cut Chloe off felt like standing on the edge of a storm. At Jenna's apartment, things were quiet. Peaceful. I went to work at the clinic during the day, came back to her cozy little place in the evenings, and almost felt like I had stepped into someone else's life. But my phone told a different story. Every morning, I woke up to a flood of new messages. My parents demanding answers, Chloe raging in bursts of all-caps texts, even a few cousins asking what was really going on. For a while, I ignored them. I thought silence was the best answer. But deep down, I knew it was only a matter of time before the truth surfaced in a way none of them could deny. That moment came sooner than I expected. One evening, Jenna and I were cooking pasta in her kitchen when her neighbor knocked on the door. He was holding out a small USB drive. Hey, this is for you, he said, looking at me. For me? I frowned. Yeah, my outdoor camera caught something a couple of nights ago. I didn't want to get involved, but when I heard about your car, I thought you might want to see this. My stomach tightened. Thank you, I whispered, taking the drive. When he left, Jenna plugged it into her laptop. We sat shoulder to shoulder on the couch, watching the footage play. And there it was. Clear as day, the video showed Chloe walking across the driveway in her pajamas, holding the same metal rod I had found on the ground. She glanced around once, then went to work, smashing windows, dragging the rod across the paint, kicking at the mirrors. When she was done, she tossed the rod onto the ground, sipped from her iced coffee, and walked back inside like nothing had happened. Jenna gasped. "Rachel, this is it. This is proof." My hands were shaking, but not from shock, from relief. For the first time, I had evidence that couldn't be explained away, not even by my parents' endless excuses. Jenna turned to me. "You need to post this. People need to know the truth." At first, I hesitated. Posting it felt loud, like stepping onto a stage I had never wanted. But then I remembered Chloe's smirk that morning, the sound of glass shattering, my parents' messages calling me cruel while ignoring what she had done. I exhaled slowly. "Okay, let's do it." We drafted the post carefully. I uploaded a still photo of my car, glass scattered like diamonds across the driveway. Then the footage. No commentary, no screaming, just a single caption. "This is what jealousy looks like. You give, and one day they destroy the one thing you saved for yourself. I won't yell, I won't fight, I'm walking away, but I want people to know the truth." We hit post. At first, nothing happened. 10 likes, a few comments, but then, like a match to dry grass, it spread. By the end of the night, the post had thousands of views. By morning, tens of thousands. People I hadn't spoken to in years were tagging me, sending messages of support, even sharing their own stories about toxic siblings or being the responsible one. "You're stronger than I could ever be." She deserves to face consequences. Family doesn't mean letting someone abuse you. But the one that stuck with me was this. Sometimes walking away is the loudest thing you can do. By noon, my phone was buzzing nonstop. Local friends, co-workers, even neighbors from back in our old street. Some wrote, "We always knew Chloe was spoiled, but we didn't realize it was this bad." For the first time, I didn't feel invisible. People saw me, really saw me, not just as the quiet, reliable daughter, but as someone who had carried more than her share, and finally put the weight down. Of course, my parents saw it too. That evening, Mom left me a voicemail, her voice sharp with fury. "You've embarrassed this family. Chloe's getting harassed. Everyone is judging us. What do you want, Rachel? An apology? Come home and we'll talk like adults." I replayed it twice, my jaw tight. Talk like adults. No one talked when Chloe smashed my windshield. No one talked when I paid her tuition in silence. Now, when the world could finally see what she had done, suddenly they wanted a conversation. I didn't answer. But then, something unexpected happened. My Aunt Rosa called. She had always been quiet during family drama, always sitting in the background at gatherings with a polite smile. Hearing her voice now felt strange but comforting. "Rachel," she said softly, "I saw your post. I had no idea it had gotten this bad." My throat tightened. "You mean Chloe?" "No," she said firmly. "I mean everything. Your parents. How they've always put her first. I stayed silent for too long, but I want you to know. I'm proud of you." I didn't expect the tears, but they came fast, hot, unstoppable. Aunt Rosa went on. "Listen, I have a guest room here in Round Rock. If you need a place that's yours, not just a friend's couch, you're welcome anytime." I swallowed hard. "Thank you. I think I'd like that." That night, I lay awake in Jenna's guest room, staring at the ceiling. The post was still spreading online. Chloe was probably fuming, my parents were scrambling, but for the first time, I wasn't scared, because I wasn't alone anymore. Someone from my own family had chosen me. And that, more than anything, felt like the beginning of something I hadn't felt in years. Freedom. The days after my post went viral were a blur. Every time I refreshed my phone, the numbers climbed higher. Likes, shares, comments. Some people from Austin, some total strangers from other states. The messages poured in, and they weren't just about sympathy. People wrote things like, "You gave too much. It's okay to stop." Others sent stories about their own families, their own versions of being the forgotten sibling, the one who carried everything until they broke. For once, I didn't feel like my life was an isolated nightmare. I felt part of something bigger, a chorus of voices saying, "You're not crazy, you're not wrong." But Chloe was furious. At first, she tried texting me, "Take it down, you don't know what you've done." Then, "I'll tell everyone you're lying." After a while, the texts shifted into begging, "Please, Rachel, just delete it. I can't go anywhere without people whispering." I didn't reply. Instead, I focused on the small pockets of peace I was building. I packed up my suitcase from Jenna's apartment and moved into Aunt Rosa's guest room in Round Rock. The house was quiet, decorated with old photographs and the faint smell of lavender. She'd left fresh sheets on the bed, a little vase of daisies on the nightstand. "This is yours now," she said gently. "No one can barge in, no one can demand anything. Just rest." For the first time in months, I slept through the night without waking up in a panic. But outside that peaceful room, the storm was building. 3 days after the move, Aunt Rosa came home holding a thick white envelope. She handed it to me with a grim face. "It's from a law firm, addressed to you." My stomach dropped. I tore it open and scanned the papers. My father's name was listed as the client. It was a formal letter demanding that I remove my post immediately, claiming it was defamation and intentional harm to family reputation. I almost laughed. Defamation? There was video evidence. The truth didn't need defending. I looked up at Aunt Rosa. "They actually hired a lawyer?" She nodded, sighing. "They're desperate. They don't want the neighborhood whispering. They'd rather silence you than face the truth." That night, I called a lawyer of my own. A woman named Melissa recommended by a coworker. She was sharp, confident, the kind of person who could slice through nonsense with a single sentence. After listening to my story, she said, "Rachel, you have nothing to fear. In fact, we can flip this. They're threatening you. Fine. We'll respond with proof. You've got the footage, the payment records, the bank transfers for Chloe's tuition, the rent. Let's package it all and send it back." Her tone was calm, steady. "You've been protecting them for years. Now let the truth protect you." The next morning, Melissa sent our response. Along with a cease and desist letter of our own, she included the video, bank statements, and a full breakdown of every expense I had covered. It was a portfolio of truth, undeniable and precise. 2 days later, silence. No more lawyer letters, no more threats. Just silence from my parents' side of Austin. But Chloe? She wasn't silent. One night, Jenna texted me a link to a TikTok. I opened it with a sinking feeling. There she was, Chloe, sitting in her messy bedroom, hair pulled into a bun, eyes red like she'd been crying. She spoke directly to the camera. "My sister's destroying my life," she began, voice trembling. She posted a video without context. "Everyone thinks I'm a monster, but she doesn't tell people how controlling she's always been, how she hoarded money while I struggled." My jaw tightened. Hoarded money? She hadn't paid a single bill in years. The video went on. "I made a mistake, okay? But does that mean my whole future should be ruined? She doesn't want me to succeed. She never did." I scrolled through the comments. At first, some people sympathized. "She's young. People make mistakes." But then others chimed in with links to my post. "We saw the footage. Your sister sacrificed everything for you." The tide wasn't in her favor. By the next morning, Chloe's video had backfired. Students at her college started commenting, some even exposing her arrogance in group chats. She acted like she was above everyone, but someone else was footing the bill. She tried to delete the video, but screenshots spread faster than she could click. That weekend, Aunt Rosa and I were sitting on her back porch when her neighbor leaned over the fence. "Hey, Rosa," he said, lowering his voice. "Heard your niece's family is in trouble." Word gets around fast in Round Rock. Aunt Rosa gave him a polite smile, but when he left, she turned to me, her eyes soft. Rachel, I know this isn't how you wanted things, but you didn't ruin their reputation. They did that themselves. I nodded, sipping my iced tea, letting her words sink in. Later that night, I opened my laptop and reread some of the comments under my post. Strangers encouraging me, old friends reconnecting, even co-workers telling me they respected my strength. For years, I'd been invisible. The silent sponsor, the forgotten daughter, the one who kept everything running while my sister soaked up the spotlight. Now, not only was I seen, I was respected. But deep down, I knew this wasn't over. Because Chloe had lost money, housing, and reputation, and people like her, they don't go quietly. I closed my laptop and whispered to myself, let her try. I'm not afraid anymore. If this story touches you, drop a number 1 in the comments. Every one reminds us that these stories matter, and it gives us the motivation to keep sharing them with you. The shift didn't happen all at once. It wasn't like a single door slammed shut and another one opened. No, it came in ripples, small waves of change that built into a tide I could no longer ignore. At first, it was the silence. After my lawyer sent back the evidence, my parents stopped calling. No more angry voicemails, no more guilt-laced texts. It was as though they decided if they pretended hard enough, maybe I'd just disappear. But silence is louder than words. I noticed it when I went grocery shopping in Austin one Saturday. A woman I vaguely recognized from my parents' church glanced at me in the produce aisle. She hesitated, then whispered, "You did the right thing, honey. Don't let them drag you down." It caught me off guard. For years, people looked at me and saw nothing but Margaret and Richard's older daughter, the dependable one who blended into the background. Now, people were starting to see me as Rachel, the woman who finally stood up. Meanwhile, Chloe's spiral was picking up speed. Her college officially froze her enrollment. Without tuition payments, she was locked out of classes. Word spread quickly through the campus in Austin. Group chats filled with screenshots of my viral post and whispers of the truth behind her scholarship. The golden reputation she had built collapsed like a house of cards. Jenna called me one evening. "You need to see this." She sent a photo from social media. Chloe outside a bar near 6th Street, arguing with someone while holding a phone with a shattered screen. The caption read, "Not so golden anymore." I stared at the image, not out of joy, but realization. She wasn't just falling, she was crumbling. At Aunt Rosa's house, life was steady, peaceful. The small guest room had become a sanctuary, its quiet walls a stark contrast to the chaos I'd lived in for years. One night, I came home late after a double shift at the clinic, and Aunt Rosa was waiting in the kitchen with 2 mugs of chamomile tea. "Rachel," she said gently, "I know you're carrying a lot of guilt, but I need you to hear this. You are not the villain in this story. You gave everything, and they chose to take advantage. Now you're finally living for yourself." Her words landed heavy, but not in a bad way. They sank deep, planting themselves like seeds of truth I hadn't allowed myself to accept. The next week at work, something extraordinary happened. My supervisor, a kind but strict woman named Dr. Patel, called me into her office. "Rachel," she said, her expression unreadable, "I've noticed how you handle crises. Calm, precise, supportive to your colleagues. That's leadership." I shifted uncomfortably in the chair, unsure where she was going. Then she slid a folder across the desk. "We'd like to promote you to lead nurse on the night shift. It comes with a pay raise and additional responsibilities. You've earned this." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. All those years I had worked tirelessly, pouring energy into others without recognition. Suddenly, here was proof that someone saw me. Someone valued me. When I left her office, I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I just smiled quietly to myself, the kind of smile that comes when the weight of years finally begins to lift. Later that week, I went out with Jenna to celebrate. We sat at a little cafe in downtown Austin, eating strawberry cheesecake and sipping iced lattes. "You know," Jenna said, leaning across the table, "this is what freedom looks like. Not flashy revenge, not screaming matches, just you, living your life better than they ever imagined." Her words stuck with me, because that's what was happening. The power had shifted, not with loud arguments, but with quiet choices. Meanwhile, my parents were unraveling. I heard through neighbors that the bills were piling up without my quiet support. My father, once so proud of his financial stability, had been seen arguing with a banker downtown. My mother complained to relatives that the house felt cold without me, though she conveniently left out why I had left. And Chloe? She was losing more than money. Her friends distanced themselves. The girl who once threw parties and posted endless selfies was now whispered about behind her back. The reputation she cherished was slipping like sand through her fingers. One night, she tried calling me. I let it go to voicemail, but curiosity made me listen. Her voice cracked as she said, "Rachel, I know I messed up. Please, I just need help. Just this once." I deleted it, because the shift in power wasn't just about money or reputation. It was about control. For the first time, I wasn't the one running after them, patching holes in their world. I was standing still, and they were the ones chasing shadows. At Aunt Rosa's house, I celebrated small victories, cooking dinners with her, tending to the little garden she kept by the fence, watching the Texas sunsets paint the sky in gold and orange. I realized something profound. Peace wasn't loud. It didn't demand attention. It whispered, steady and sure, reminding me every day that I didn't need to fight to prove my worth. The power had shifted, and I wasn't about to give it back. The phone call came on a gray Sunday afternoon. I was sitting at Aunt Rosa's dining table, sipping tea, when her landline rang. She glanced at the caller ID and handed the phone to me. "It's your mother," she whispered. I hesitated, then took the receiver. "Hello?" Her voice was sharp, strained. "Rachel, we need to talk. Face to face. Tonight." I almost said no, but something in her tone told me this wasn't about reconciliation. It was about desperation, and part of me wanted to see just how far they'd fallen. So that evening, Jenna drove me back to my parents' house in Austin. The driveway where my silver Toyota once gleamed was empty, my old spot now filled with weeds breaking through the cracks in the concrete. When I stepped inside, the air was heavy. My father sat rigid on the couch, arms crossed. My mother paced near the window. Chloe slouched in the recliner, her arms wrapped tightly around herself. No trace of the smugness she once wore like armor. "Rachel," my father said without preamble, "you've embarrassed this family. That post you made, everyone is talking about it. Do you understand what you've done?" I met his glare calmly. "I told the truth." "Truth?" my mother snapped. "You humiliated us. Chloe can't even walk across campus without whispers. Our friends avoid us at church." "Do you feel proud of yourself?" I took a deep breath. "Do I feel proud that I finally stopped being your ATM? Yes. Do I feel proud that I stood up for myself after years of carrying this family in silence? Absolutely." My father's jaw tightened, but before he could respond, Chloe exploded. "You ruined my life!" she shouted, her voice cracking. "I can't register for classes. I can't pay rent. Everyone hates me now because of you." I turned toward her. "No, Chloe. You ruined your own life when you smashed my car, when you lied about where the money came from, when you forged my name on loans. Don't blame me for exposing what you did." Her face went red, her mouth opening and closing like she couldn't find the words. "You're supposed to be my sister," she finally whispered. "Sisters don't abandon each other." The weight of that irony nearly knocked me over. Sisters don't destroy each other's property. Sisters don't steal identities. Sisters don't watch someone bleed themselves dry and then demand more. For a long moment, the room was silent. My parents looked at me like I was a stranger. But I wasn't a stranger. I was the same Rachel who had paid the mortgage, the bills, the tuition, the Rachel they ignored until I stopped paying. Then came the part I hadn't expected. My father leaned forward, his eyes cold. "Take down the post. Publicly apologize to your sister. And maybe we can move forward." I laughed, not out of humor, but disbelief. "You think I'll apologize? After everything she did? After years of me holding this family together? No. That post stays up. The truth stays up." "You'll regret this," my mother hissed. "Maybe," I said, standing. "But at least I'll regret it while living honestly, not hiding behind lies." Jenna, who had stayed quiet until now, finally spoke. "You should all be ashamed. Rachel gave up her own life for years to keep this house running. And instead of gratitude, you gave her betrayal." She looked at Chloe. "You don't even realize how lucky you were." My parents didn't respond. Chloe stared at the floor, and I knew the conversation was over. As we left, I felt lighter, though my chest still ached. Facing them hadn't been easy, but it had been necessary. They needed to hear the words, even if they never accepted them. The consequences came quickly. 2 days later, Chloe's landlord called me again, not to ask for payment, but to inform me she had been evicted. She'd trashed the apartment before leaving, and now he was threatening legal action. The university made its own move as well. With unpaid tuition and evidence of fraud, Chloe's enrollment was formally terminated. She wasn't just locked out of classes, she was blacklisted from applying to other programs under their system. Meanwhile, the community chatter grew louder. My viral post had opened the floodgates. People who once praised my parents for raising such responsible daughters now whispered about favoritism, lies, and hypocrisy. I didn't join the whispers. I didn't need to. Their actions spoke for themselves. But perhaps the most unexpected consequence came from within the family. Aunt Rosa called one evening, her voice firm. "Rachel, I've spoken to the rest of the relatives. We've all seen the proof. From now on, family gatherings will be at my place. You're welcome. They," she paused, "are not." For the first time, I felt something shift. Not just power, but belonging. I wasn't alone anymore. I wasn't the invisible daughter. I was the one people rallied around. Chloe tried calling again a week later. This time, I answered. Her voice was small. "Rachel, I don't know what to do." I waited a beat, then said softly, "Start by taking responsibility. Start by admitting the truth. Until then, there's nothing I can do for you." She didn't reply. The line went quiet. That night, as I sat on Aunt Rosa's porch, the Texas sky stretched wide and endless above me. For the first time, I didn't feel trapped in my family's shadow. I felt free. The confrontation had been brutal, but necessary. The consequences were theirs to bear now, and I was ready to move forward, without them. It had been almost 6 months since the day I walked away from my parents' house with nothing but a suitcase and a heavy heart. 6 months since Chloe smashed my car, since I canceled her tuition payments, since I decided my silence was no longer their safety net. Now, sitting at my desk in the hospital, sunlight streaming through the blinds of my new office, I couldn't help but marvel at how far things had come. My nameplate read Rachel Carter, lead nurse. Each time I glanced at it, I felt a quiet surge of pride. At work, my team respected me. Doctors asked for my input. Patients requested me by name. For years, I poured myself into holding up a family that didn't value me. Now, I was pouring myself into a career that did, and it was paying off, not just financially, but emotionally. Meanwhile, Chloe's downfall continued to ripple outward. Word spread through Austin that she'd been evicted, blacklisted by the university, and shunned by the same friends who once praised her. The golden child was now little more than a cautionary tale. But I didn't celebrate her misery. I didn't even follow it closely. Aunt Rosa or Jenna would mention updates now and then, but I always shrugged. Chloe's life was no longer my responsibility. her chaos no longer mine to clean up. One evening, Aunt Rosa surprised me with dinner on the patio. As we ate under strings of soft lights, she raised her glass. "To new beginnings," she said warmly. I smiled. "To finally being free." For the first time in years, I wasn't calculating bills in my head while eating dinner. I wasn't silently bracing for another demand, another guilt trip, another, "Rachel, you owe us." I was living my own life on my own terms, but life has a way of circling back. A week later, a letter arrived. Handwritten, the envelope slightly crumpled. The handwriting was unmistakable. Chloe's. Inside was a short note. "Rachel, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I ruined what mattered to you. I lied. I stole. I took you for granted. For the first time in my life, I'm seeing what that cost me. I'm working part-time at a diner now. It's hard, but maybe it's what I need. I don't expect anything from you. Not money, not help, not even a reply. I just wanted you to know I'm sorry." I read it twice, then folded it neatly and placed it in my desk drawer. Forgiveness, I realized, didn't need to be spoken. It didn't mean going back. It meant letting go of the bitterness, the weight. And I had already done that. I didn't reply. I didn't visit. I didn't send money. But for the first time, I didn't feel anger when I thought of her. Just distance and peace. Weeks passed, and my life blossomed in ways I hadn't expected. The hospital sponsored me to attend a leadership seminar in Dallas. I stood on stage in front of hundreds of nurses and spoke about resilience, about leading with compassion. My voice didn't shake. My hands didn't tremble. Afterward, a young nurse approached me with tears in her eyes. "You inspired me," she said. "I've been giving everything to my family and leaving nothing for myself. Hearing your story, it made me realize it's okay to choose me." Her words hit hard, because that's what this entire journey had been about. Choosing me. Back in Austin, my parents remained silent. They never apologized, never admitted what they'd done, but that no longer mattered. I didn't need their recognition to validate my worth. I had built a life without them, a life filled with respect, peace, and a future I controlled. Jenna often reminded me, the best revenge isn't payback, it's living a life they can't touch. And she was right. On a quiet Saturday morning, I found myself at a car dealership in Round Rock. The rows of gleaming vehicles reflected the Texas sun, each one a symbol of possibility. I walked past the shiny sedans and SUVs until I found it, a silver Toyota Camry, newer than the one Chloe had destroyed. I ran my hand along the smooth surface, inhaled the faint scent of new leather when the salesman opened the door. "Would you like to take it for a spin?" he asked. I smiled. Yes, I would. As I slid behind the wheel, memories of the shattered glass and broken windshield flickered in my mind. But this time, the image didn't sting. It fueled me. The test drive was smooth, steady, filled with a sense of closure I hadn't realized I needed. By the end of the day, I signed the papers. The keys jingled in my hand as the salesman congratulated me. Driving home, the road stretched wide and open ahead of me. The Camry wasn't just a car, it was a symbol, proof that no matter what had been broken, I had the strength to rebuild. That evening, I parked it carefully in Aunt Rosa's driveway. She came out to see it, her face lighting up. "Rachel," she said softly, "you've come full circle." I nodded, smiling. This time it's mine, and no one else gets to touch it. Later that night, as I sat in my room, I thought about everything. The sacrifices, the betrayal, the silence, the rebuilding. My journey wasn't just about walking away. It was about rising higher than I ever thought I could. For years, I believed my value came from what I gave others. Now, I knew better. My value came from who I was, what I built, and the life I chose for myself. And as I closed my eyes, the thought settled in with the kind of peace I had once believed impossible. Sometimes the greatest empowerment doesn't come from fighting back. It comes from walking away, building your own life, and letting the people who underestimated you watch from below. I wasn't their safety net anymore. I was my own wings.